The summer morning in Boston was enveloped in the usual heavy, humid air. Diana Campbell opened the window and took a deep breath. From the second floor of her old apartment, she could feel the bustle and morning rush of the street. She looked at the clock and quickly tied her hair in a ponytail. She couldn't be late again today. "Lily, Mommy's sweet angel, let's do our best together today." The 7-month-old daughter curled up in her crib moved her tiny hand in response to her mother's voice. Diana kissed Lily's forehead and carefully picked her up. Lily's big blue eyes slowly looked up at Diana as usual, but it took a little time for them to focus. "Look, it's going to be another wonderful day." The truth was, wonderful days were rare. Diana was a single mother working at a small accounting firm in Boston. Her days were filled with a hectic schedule of early morning trips to daycare, work, doctor appointments, and household chores until late at night, barely giving her a moment to breathe. Still, she never stopped smiling, especially in front of Lily. While Diana was preparing milk in the kitchen, the phone rang. Looking at the screen, she hesitated for a moment but eventually picked up. "Good morning, Mom." "Diana," Frances Campbell's voice was as cold as usual. "Haley is planning a dinner this afternoon for an important announcement. You've been asked to come." Diana took a deep breath. Conversations with her mother always grated on her nerves. Frances had always favored Diana's sister Haley over her. "It's difficult today. I have a pediatrician appointment for Lily, and work." "You can reschedule the appointment," Frances cut her off. "It's a family gathering. Haley says she wants you to come too." Diana started to argue back but stopped. She didn't have the energy for such an argument this morning. "All right. What time?" 6 o'clock. "The usual place." "And?" Frances's voice dropped even lower. "If you're bringing that child, make sure she's properly dressed. Don't embarrass everyone like last time." Before the call ended, Diana closed her eyes tightly. That child. Referring to her own granddaughter as if she had no name. Diana had stopped counting how many hurtful words her mother had thrown at her over the years. Lily was born with developmental delays. While doctors said it was too early for a final diagnosis, they pointed out early symptoms of cerebral palsy. On the day of that diagnosis, Diana's world changed. But what devastated her even more was her husband Robert's sudden disappearance. It had been a year. When she was 7 months pregnant, Robert left the house saying, "I need some time to think," and never came back. His cell phone was disconnected, and his parents would only say they didn't know where he was. Diana couldn't fall apart for the sake of the baby in her womb. She went to prenatal checkups alone, faced childbirth alone, and when doctors told her, "Your baby will need special care," she accepted that reality alone. As Diana held Lily and slung the diaper bag over her shoulder, the morning sun illuminated the small living room of her apartment. Photos hung on the wall captured happier days gone.
Can you imagine making $10,000 a month just from YouTube, all from home? That's exactly what I did with Candlelight Stories. No face, no voice. Check the link in the description if you're curious.
By. A picture from her wedding with Robert. A vacation they took to Cape Cod. And her own smiling face, full of hope, when she found out she was pregnant. Now, those memories seemed like a distant past. Reality was struggling to pay the rent each month, worrying about Lily's medical bills, and enduring critical looks from her mother. On the way to daycare, Diana saw a message on her smartphone. It was from her sister Haley. "I have big news tonight. You must come. Bring Lily too. I want everyone to celebrate together." Diana smiled wryly. Haley was always bright, positive, and seemed to handle everything with ease. She was married to a lawyer husband who worked at a prestigious law firm and already had 2 healthy children. Perfect home, perfect job, perfect family. No wonder Frances called her the model daughter. After dropping Lily off at daycare, Diana rushed to the accounting firm. A mountain of paperwork that needed to be sorted was already piled on her desk. Her colleague Martha brought her a coffee. "How are you? How's Lily?" "She's getting better bit by bit," Diana smiled. "Last week she was able to grasp a toy on her own." Martha smiled kindly in return. "She's a strong girl. Just like you." Between work tasks, Diana found another message from Haley. It included a photo. Haley's husband Tom and their 2 children, 5-year-old Emily and 3-year-old Jake, were smiling. The caption read, "Can't wait for tonight." Diana started to reply but stopped. What should she say? She didn't resent Haley. Her sister had always been kind to her and showed affection to Lily. But her perfect life sometimes reminded Diana of her own failures. Canceling the afternoon pediatrician appointment and getting an alternative date was difficult. But it was better than facing Frances's anger. Diana reluctantly called and changed the appointment. At 5:30, Diana picked up Lily from daycare, rushed home, and changed both of their clothes. She headed to the special venue. Frances's usual place was the Harborview, an upscale restaurant in Boston. The Campbell family's special gatherings were always held there. When they arrived at the restaurant, the entire family had already gathered. Frances was wearing an elegant navy dress, seated at the head of the table. Next to her were Haley and Tom, along with their children. When Diana entered the room holding Lily, a momentary silence fell. "You're late," Frances said, looking at her watch. "I'm sorry, the daycare was a bit crowded," Diana replied calmly. She asked for a high chair for Lily, but Frances shook her head. "Keep her on your lap. I don't want her causing a scene again." "Mom, Lily is a quiet child," Haley came to her defense. "I can hold her if you'd like." Diana gave her sister a grateful smile. Haley stood up and took Lily in her arms. "Hello, my sweet niece. It's your aunt." Lily opened her big eyes curiously and slowly gazed at Haley. Though her reaction was slow, Diana could see a small light ignite in Lily's eyes. Haley gently kissed her cheek and returned to her seat. Diana sat in her place and opened the menu. "So, what's today's announcement?" Frances asked. Everyone is eager to hear. Haley exchanged glances with Tom, and they both smiled shyly. "Actually, we're having another baby." Cheers erupted from the table, and Frances clapped her hands excitedly. "Wonderful. A 3rd child. Congratulations." "I'm 3 months along," Haley said happily. "And this time, I want to have a proper celebration. I'm planning a baby shower." Frances's eyes sparkled. "Of course. I'll arrange everything. How about that resort hotel in Cape Cod? I wonder if we can book an ocean view suite." "That sounds lovely," Haley exclaimed. "How about the first weekend of next month? Everyone, please keep your schedules open." She looked at Diana. "You and Lily absolutely must come. I want the whole family to celebrate together." Diana forced a smile. "Of course, congratulations." As conversation flowed around the table, Diana gazed at Lily. Her little daughter seemed a bit anxious amid the joyful voices. Diana took her small hand and whispered quietly, "It's okay, Lily. Mommy's here. I'll always protect you." And in her heart, she vowed. Having been treated as an outsider in the family all her life, she would never let Lily feel the same way. No matter what the cost, she would protect her daughter. The luxury resort hotel, Ocean Breezes, in Cape Cod stood majestically on a cliff overlooking the Atlantic. Its white exterior walls gleamed like pearls in the morning sun. Diana got out of the taxi, picked up Lily, and took a deep breath. The sea breeze with the scent of salt gently caressed her hair. "Lily, look. The ocean." Stepping into the resort entrance, she was greeted by marble floors and the sparkle of chandeliers. The lobby was already decorated for Haley's baby shower. Pale pink and white balloons, a banner reading, "Welcome Baby Number 3, and fresh flowers placed throughout. Everything was in perfect harmony. And that made Diana's heart feel even heavier. Diana. You finally made it. Turning around, she saw Haley hurrying toward her. She was wearing a light blue maternity dress and was glowing in a way that seemed impossible for someone 4 months pregnant. Haley kissed Lily's cheek and hugged Diana. Everyone is already on the terrace overlooking the sea. Tom's parents are here too. Diana nodded. Tom's parents, the Stanford Winthrops, came from an old Boston family. They always behaved politely, but Diana didn't miss the hint of pity in their gaze. And Mom? Of course she's here. She arrived on the first flight this morning and has been directing everything, Haley laughed. We've booked a room for you too, so you can let Lily rest if needed. Diana expressed her gratitude, but in her heart, she was thinking about how out of place she felt in this luxurious environment. Her simple light blue dress was far too modest compared to the elegant attire of the other women present. Stepping onto the terrace, about 30 guests were chatting with champagne glasses in hand. Friends of the Winthrops, Haley's colleagues, and distant relatives. Many of them were faces Diana hadn't seen in years. In the center of the terrace was a lavish buffet table where a chef was serving hors d'oeuvres on the spot. Diana found Frances near that table. Her mother was wearing a gray silk dress and talking with Mrs. Winthrop. When Frances noticed her daughter, her expression hardened momentarily, but she quickly recovered her social smile. Diana, you've finally arrived, Frances kissed her daughter's cheek but didn't touch Lily. Caitlin, this is my eldest daughter. Caitlin Winthrop smiled at Diana. Nice to finally meet you. Haley always talks about you. Really? Diana was surprised. Yes, about your difficult situation too, Caitlin said, looking at Lily. This is Lily, isn't she? Such a cute child. There was kindness in those words, but Diana couldn't help feeling the pity behind them. She smiled and answered, "Thank you. Lily is truly a wonderful daughter." Frances changed the subject. Let's get some drinks. Haley is about to open her gifts. Diana held Lily firmly and headed toward the edge of the terrace. From there, she could see the blue ocean, and waves crashing against the rocks below the cliff. Since loud noises and crowds could make Lily anxious, she wanted to keep some distance. After a while, Haley sat on the central sofa, surrounded by Tom, Emily, and Jake, and began opening gifts. With each box opened, there were cheers, and Frances beamed at the new clothes and toys for her grandchild. How lovely! Such adorable things. This is a luxury brand, Haley. Amid the storm of praise, Diana stood quietly, comforting Lily. She hadn't brought a gift. She had used most of her savings for last month's medical bills and was struggling with this month's rent. As the party progressed, Diana felt eyes on her several times. Relatives would approach her, have a brief conversation, and then quickly leave. The topics were always superficial. No one asked about Lily, about Robert, about her life. It seemed like an unspoken agreement. She was always a child with problems, Diana accidentally overheard her mother say. Frances was talking to a distant relative. She had no eye for choosing a husband either, and now. Frances lowered her voice, but Diana could still hear. She's raising a disabled child all by herself. It's really tough. Diana's chest ached. Lily wasn't a disabled child. She was Lily. She was Diana's everything. During lunch, tables were divided by family. Diana sat at the central table with her mother, sister, and the Winthrop family. Haley's children ran around energetically, occasionally returning to the table to show off their new toys. Lily sat quietly on Diana's lap but suddenly began to cry softly. It's okay, Lily, Diana quietly soothed her daughter. However, Lily's crying gradually grew louder. It was nearly time for her formula milk. Diana, Francis frowned. Quiet that child. She's bothering everyone. She'll settle down soon, Mom. Diana held Lily to her chest and stood up. I'll go to the room and feed her. As she stood up, the conversation at the table paused momentarily. Diana felt everyone's gaze as she hurried away from the terrace with Lily. She headed to the room she'd been given, and once she closed the door, she finally let out a deep sigh. I'm sorry, Lily. Mommy's okay. Fighting back tears, Diana prepared Lily's milk. Why did she always have to run away like this? Why did her mother have to be ashamed of her and Lily? After finishing her milk, Lily finally calmed down. Diana sat on the bed and touched her daughter's soft hair. You're perfect, Lily. There's nothing wrong with you. Someday, everyone will see that too. After spending about an hour in the room, Diana decided to return to the party. When she returned to the terrace, the party was in its final stages. Desserts were being served, and many of the guests had begun to leave. Oh, you're back, Francis approached. Has that child calmed down? Yes, Lily is fine, Diana answered. It was just her feeding time. Francis stared at Lily. There was something ominous in her eyes. You might not realize it, but you had the potential to be like Haley. You had talent and beauty, but... Mom, stop, Diana lowered her voice. Today is Haley's day. I don't want to cause any more problems. Problems? Francis raised her voice. You created the problems. Marrying the wrong man, and then this. She pointed at Lily. Diana grabbed her mother's arm. Don't speak ill of Lily. She's my daughter. She's my granddaughter, Francis's eyes flashed. A disgrace to the family. Those words reached the ears of the few relatives still on the terrace. An uncomfortable silence fell. Haley quickly stepped between them. Mom, Diana, please stop. Please. Francis took a deep breath and regained her social smile. I'm sorry. I got a bit too emotional. She looked at Lily. Let's get her some fresh air. She must be bored. Suddenly, Francis took Lily from Diana's arms. Mom, what are you doing? Diana was surprised. Don't worry. Grandma is just going to look after her for a bit. Saying that, Francis carried Lily to the edge of the terrace, to the balcony overlooking the sea. There was a strange expression on her face. Diana felt a sudden anxiety and followed her mother. Several relatives, sensing something was wrong, followed behind them. On the balcony, Francis held Lily high and stared at the distant sea. There was something in her expression that Diana had never seen before. Determination. Anger. And a strange calmness. Mom. Diana called quietly. Give Lily back. But Francis didn't turn around. She just continued to stare at the sea, holding Lily. Mom, please. Give Lily back to me. Diana's voice was trembling. She slowly approached the balcony. Francis's back was tense, and her white fingers were gripping Lily's small body tightly. The wind from the sea grew stronger, causing Francis's hair to become disheveled. Enough, Diana, Francis finally turned around. Tears glistened in her eyes. You always make the wrong choices. Always. Diana took another step closer. As relatives on the terrace watched anxiously, Haley also slowly approached. Mom, what are you saying? Haley asked quietly. Give Lily back. Diana is frightened. Francis looked at Haley. You don't understand. Haley, you've always made the right choices. Good university, good job, wonderful husband, healthy children. But she. Francis's gaze returned to Diana. You brought shame to our family. Marrying that Robert Greene. Despite knowing what his family did to us. Diana was confused. What are you talking about? Robert's family. I only met them 2 or 3 times. They're the Greenes. Francis's voice rose. 30 years ago, his father drove your father out of business. We lost everything. And you married him without knowing anything. Tension ran through the terrace. Tom slowly began to guide the children indoors. Other guests also began to move anxiously. I didn't know that. Diana was shocked and surprised. Of course. You know nothing. And now, a child with his blood. Francis looked down at Lily. This kind of child was born. This is divine punishment. A curse. Mom. Haley shouted. What are you saying? Lily is a baby. She's done nothing wrong. Francis shook her head. This child is not good for our family. She carries the cursed blood of the Greene family. She will ruin our lineage. That's not true. Diana took another step closer. She reached out, trying to speak as calmly as possible. Mom, Lily is innocent. She's just a baby. She's your granddaughter. Francis backed away further, getting closer to the edge of the balcony. Behind her, waves were crashing violently against the cliff. You can't understand. Francis's voice changed. Colder, more determined. I must protect this family. Mom, listen carefully, Diana said quietly. No matter what, Lily is my daughter. Your granddaughter. Blood doesn't matter. Love is what's important. For a moment, hesitation flickered across Francis's face. She looked down at Lily. The baby was staring back at her with big blue eyes. But the moment quickly passed. Francis's face hardened again. They took everything from us, Francis said in a trembling voice. Your father went bankrupt, drowned in alcohol, and died of a heart attack. Because of that family. And now, a child with their blood. Francis held Lily high. There was a sudden determination in her movements. We don't need a disabled child in our family. Let her be washed away by the sea. With those words, Francis thrust Lily out over the balcony railing. Lily! Diana's scream tore through the air. She leaped forward but was too late. The small body was thrown into the air. Diana clung to the balcony railing and looked down the cliff. Lily's little red dress danced in the wind as her body fell down, down, down. No! Amid Diana's screams, the terrace fell into chaos. Haley screamed, and Tom ran up, shouting for someone to call the police and rescue team. The hotel staff panicked and rushed over. Francis stood there, seemingly only now realizing what she had done, looking stunned. Her hands were empty. My baby! My baby! Diana kept screaming. She tried to climb over the railing but was stopped by hotel staff. Ma'am, it's dangerous. But my daughter. Lily. Below the cliff, waves were crashing violently against the rocks. The small figure in the red dress was no longer visible. Diana collapsed to her knees and let out a desperate cry. The hotel manager quickly took a radio and contacted the Coast Guard. Emergency. An infant has fallen from the cliff. Send a rescue team immediately. Tom was desperately explaining the situation to the police over the phone. Haley stood beside the dazed Francis, her face pale with shock. Mom, what have you done? She whispered. Francis didn't respond. She just stared at the cliff bottom with vacant eyes. An ambulance and police will be here soon, Tom said, hanging up the phone. The Coast Guard is also dispatching. Minutes later, sirens were heard. Hotel staff rushed to the entrance to guide the police and ambulance crew. Diana remained collapsed, continuing to call Lily's name. Her heart was shattered, with only one thought remaining. Lily. The small life that had been her everything. I see something down there. Suddenly, one of the hotel staff pointed to the cliff bottom. Everyone looked in the direction indicated and could see something moving on the rocks. It was a human figure. An old man with a fishing rod was standing, holding something. There's someone there. Tom shouted. And they're holding something. Diana stood up amid mixed hope and fear. She strained her eyes to see the cliff bottom. The old man was holding something red. It was the color of Lily's dress. Lily. Diana's whisper was lost in the wind. Rescue team members began moving to find the fastest route down the cliff. Police officers approached Frances and began questioning her. But she just stood there, stunned. The man appears to be safely holding the child, the rescue team leader reported through binoculars. He's standing on a small rock ledge at the bottom of the cliff. Our team will reach him immediately. Diana felt her knees weaken and her vision darken. Tom supported her and helped her sit down. Lily might be safe, he said quietly. It looks like that fisherman caught her. Time seemed to drag on forever. During the few minutes it took for the rescue team to descend the cliff and make contact with the old man, the terrace was enveloped in silence. Finally, a voice came over the radio. The child is alive. She's conscious and shows no major trauma. We'll transport her to the hospital immediately. Tears streamed down Diana's face. She watched the rescue team climb back up the cliff and saw the small red bundle. Lily. Her little miracle. The police detained Frances and read her rights. She didn't resist and just went with them silently. Her eyes were vacant. Before boarding the ambulance, Diana looked at Haley. Her sister was crying. Go, Haley said. Be with Lily. I'll handle Mom's situation later. Diana nodded and got into the ambulance. Lily was being held by a paramedic, her small body wrapped in a blanket. She was crying, but that was proof she was alive. It's okay, Lily, Diana touched her daughter's cheek with a trembling hand. Mommy's here. The pediatric ward of Boston General Hospital was filled with quiet vitality even at night. The gentle lighting and pale blue walls gave comfort to children and their families. Diana sat by Lily's bedside, holding her small hand. It's truly nothing short of a miracle. Dr. Janet Chen, standing at the entrance with a chart in hand, smiled. There are minor bruises and scrapes, but no other notable injuries. We'll keep her overnight for observation, but she should be able to go home tomorrow. Thank you, Diana answered with a trembling voice. The fear and relief she had experienced in the past 24 hours had exhausted her heart and body. A Mr. Walter Jenkins is requesting to see you. Would you like to meet him? Diana nodded. The old fisherman who had been fishing at the bottom of the cliff and miraculously caught Lily. Without him, Lily would now be. Pushing away that thought, Diana straightened her posture. A few minutes later, the door opened, and a white-haired old man entered. Wearing a simple navy sweater and khaki pants, his gentle blue eyes and hands weathered by wind and rain were testament to a life lived alongside the sea. Miss, he said in a quiet voice. Is your child all right? Yes, Diana stood up and impulsively hugged the old man. How can I ever thank you? It's all right, Walter said embarrassedly. I was fishing at the bottom of the cliff when I suddenly saw something falling from above. I reflexively reached out my arms and was able to catch this little angel. I guess God placed me there. Lily was sleeping in bed. Looking at her peaceful face, the terrifying event of yesterday seemed like a dream. You're the angel, Mr. Jenkins. Please call me Walter, the old man smiled. Actually, I fish at that spot every Sunday. I went earlier than usual today because it was particularly sunny. To Diana, this coincidence seemed like destiny. About your mother? Walter said hesitantly. She's in police custody, Diana answered quietly. From what I heard from my sister, she'll be charged with a serious crime. Walter nodded silently. Without prying, he showed understanding. If you need anything, don't hesitate to ask. He took a business card from his pocket. I run a small fishing tackle shop near the harbor. I'm always happy to help. After he left, Diana sat beside Lily again. Outside the window, the Boston night skyline stretched out, and stars were visible. She was beginning to think about what to do from tomorrow. The next morning, Lily's discharge preparations were ready. As Dr. Chen finished her final examination and was signing the discharge papers, Diana's cell phone rang. The screen displayed Frances Campbell. Diana caught her breath. It was her mother's phone number, but she was supposed to be in custody. Hello? Diana, the voice on the other end was trembling. It was Frances. I need to tell you everything. I want you to come see me. Mom? Where are you calling from? From the police station. They let me use the phone temporarily. Frances's voice was tired. Is she okay? Yes, she's being discharged today, Diana answered coldly. She almost died because of you. I know, Frances's voice shook. I won't make excuses. But there's something I need to tell you. Something important. About Robert. Robert? Diana was surprised. What does he have to do with this? Come to Boston Central Police Station. Please. The call ended. Diana, puzzled, rushed through Lily's discharge procedures. She called her sister Haley and asked if she could look after Lily for a little while. Of course, Haley's voice was sincere. I'm confused about Mom too. But Lily is my niece. I'll take good care of her. On her way to the hospital lobby, Diana suddenly stopped. There stood Robert Greene, her husband who had disappeared a year ago. He looked tired, but his kind brown eyes and slightly grown black hair were familiar. Diana. Hearing his voice, Diana's heart froze. She was hit by confusion, anger, and strangely, a faint sense of relief. Robert, she said coldly. Why are you here? I saw about Lily on the news. He took a step closer. She's safe. Thank God. What right do you have to say anything after abandoning us a year ago? Anger seeped into Diana's voice. Robert took a deep breath and closed his eyes. Let me explain. It's time I told you everything. I'm on my way to the police station. My mother is waiting for me. Frances. Robert was surprised. Then let me come with you. It's relevant. Diana hesitated. But this might be an opportunity to get answers to the questions she'd had for the past year. She silently nodded. When Haley arrived to pick up Lily, Diana and Robert took a taxi to the police station. As silence dominated the car, Robert began to speak quietly. I need to tell you the truth. About my family. I am the son of Jonathan Greene of Greene Enterprises. Greene Enterprises? Diana's eyes widened. That name belonged to a major corporation that everyone in Boston knew. Yes. My family is famous in business circles. But when I met you, I just wanted to be Robert Greene. I wanted to be loved for myself, not for my family name or wealth. So that's why you only used your last name and didn't talk about your family. Yes, Robert said sadly. When I married you, my mother was furious. She heard your family name and immediately began to object. Marriage to the Campbell family cannot be approved, she said. Why? 30 years ago, there was a business conflict between our family and your father's company. I didn't know the details, but my mother always said, the Campbell family is the enemy. The taxi arrived at the police station. They got out and headed for the entrance. And when you got pregnant, Robert continued, when tests showed that the baby might have issues, my mother said, this is a curse. She forced me to divorce you. So that's why you ran away. Diana's voice was cold. No, I resisted. But my mother threatened, I will cut off all financial support for her and the child. I was kicked out of the family company and my assets were frozen. And yet, you didn't even contact me once. I was ashamed, tears welled in Robert's eyes. And I couldn't forgive my own weakness. But recently, I made a decision. I completely separated from the family company and started my own business. And I was looking for you and Lily. At the police station, they met Frances. She was waiting in the visiting room. Her face was pale and she looked exhausted. Diana, she tried to stand up. And when she saw Robert, her face tensed. You, from the Green family. Mom, Diana sat down in front of her mother. What's going on? Tell me everything. Frances took a deep breath. 30 years ago, your father was trying to form a business partnership with Green Enterprises. But at the last moment, they cancelled the contract and instead partnered with our main competitor. Your father's company went bankrupt, and he lost everything. And so he turned to alcohol. Diana said softly. Yes, Frances closed her eyes. He blamed himself and drowned in drinking. Eventually, he died of a heart attack. I hated the Green family. I thought they had taken my husband away from me. Robert listened silently. His expression showed shock at the past of his family that he had never known. And when I found out you married Robert Green, Frances covered her face with trembling hands. I couldn't accept it. But you seemed happy. So I didn't say anything. When Lily was born with a disability, you thought it was a curse. Diana asked quietly. I was confused. Frances's voice became smaller. Years of resentment and anger made it impossible for me to think clearly. Throwing Lily into the sea. She choked on her words. It's unforgivable. I know. 3 months later, in the garden of a house in a quiet Boston suburb, Diana held Lily, basking in the spring sunshine. Colorful flowers bloomed in the flower bed, and water flowed quietly from a small fountain. Daddy's coming home, Lily. Lily looked up at Diana with big blue eyes. She had become quicker to respond and occasionally showed smiles. The effects of physical therapy were beginning to show little by little. A car stopped at the entrance, and Robert got out with a bag of documents. There was fatigue on his face, but his expression softened when he saw his family. How did it go? Diana asked. As expected, Robert answered after gently kissing Lily's head. Mother resisted at first, but eventually accepted the meeting. Eleanor Green, Robert's mother, had initially strongly opposed accepting Diana and Lily. But when she met Lily last month, a change began in her hard heart. Lily's innocent smile and purity began to melt the wall of hatred that had stood for years. She said, Robert sat on a garden bench, and Diana and Lily sat beside him. There are things more important than lineage or disability. Diana smiled faintly. She's changed too. Mother visited Frances today. Diana opened her eyes wide in surprise. At the prison? Yes. They had a discussion to end the old feud. Both perspectives on the incident 30 years ago. Frances had admitted her guilt and received a 5-year sentence. However, as a result of psychiatric evaluation, she was to serve her sentence while receiving psychiatric treatment. Haley visited her every week, and Diana showed her face once a month. Though initially rejecting, Frances was gradually opening her heart. For next month's wedding, Robert said quietly, special permission for Frances has been granted. She can attend with security. Diana and Robert had decided to remarry. This time with the blessing of both families. And above all, with Lily. Really? Diana asked with mixed emotions. I wonder if I'm ready to see her. That's up to you, Robert gently held her hand. But she's really trying to change. My mother is the same. The following week, on the day to visit Frances, Diana saw her mother through the glass. She was thinner than before, with more white in her hair. But there was a new light in her eyes. Diana, Frances smiled. How's Lily? She's doing well, Diana answered. Last week, she learned to grab and play with toys on her own. Tears welled in Frances's eyes. For doing such a thing. Mom, Diana took a deep breath. I may not be able to forgive completely. But if you continue treatment and show true remorse, I think there's a possibility of gradually repairing our relationship. Frances nodded silently. I've harbored hatred for a long time. It destroyed me and almost. She choked on her words. Almost killed my granddaughter. I want you to come to the wedding, Diana said. And I want you to share your feelings in front of all the family. The truth, and your remorse. A month later, a wedding was held in a small church. Haley was the attendant, and Tom and their children, as well as Robert's family, attended. When Frances entered, escorted by guards, the room fell silent. After the ceremony, Frances stood before all the attendees. She held a trembling piece of paper in her hand, but began to speak without looking at it. For years, I have carried resentment and prejudice. I now finally understand how much that has hurt me and those around me. There is no excuse for my actions. I only want to show my true remorse. Eleanor Green also stood up and apologized for past events. When the two elderly women exchanged a handshake of reconciliation, quiet applause broke out. Diana held Robert's hand while holding Lily. She now understood. A true family is not about blood ties or perfection, but about people who have the courage to acknowledge past mistakes, grow together, and reconcile for the future. Lily became a bridge between the two families, and new family bonds began to sprout. Frances, while taking responsibility for her actions, began the long journey of overcoming prejudice and hatred to gradually regain peace of mind. Above all, Diana and Robert, together with Lily, would continue to prove that true love can overcome any difficulty. In the spring sunshine, Lily called out, "Mama," for the first time. Tears flowed from Diana's eyes. They were not tears of suffering, but tears of hope. Tears of a new beginning.